All right, we're gonna try this again. So, had a couple games against a Vis on my team, and I'm taking my latest, what's it called? My latest Dodge Kano revision with the obviously barragings, the red Graveling, and the chains of Mephetis. And sort of iterating on that a little bit. I did swap out the where are they? I did swap out one yellow hungering for a single send packing, which did not notice a difference. And obviously, only 2 games. 2 games is not a very large sample size, but still worth mentioning. For the Vis matchup, I took out, as you can see, I took out the Deeper Dude Evil and the two blue unworldlies for the extra red Graveling and the 2 barragings. It's just a race, so these really help tilt the race in your favor. Maybe I should have also dropped the Guardian for the Ghostly Visit. I think that's worth testing out in the future, but um, that's how I ended up running this list. I didn't know what kind of a Vis build I was running into. So I just kind of hedged my bets down the middle. Nothing fancy going on with the equipment. It's exactly what you would expect. Single claw, lantern, and then just the normal set of blocking equipment. So I won the die roll. Obviously super important. My turn 0 here. My opening hand is Doomsday, Soul Harvest, Wild Ride, Blood Rush. I mean, I almost can't ask for a better opening hand. I pitched the Doomsday just to get the non-6 out of my hand in case like I draw 2 more non-6s. Right, so that way if I draw 2 more non-6s, it's theoretically possible for me to get rid of 1. And then pitch the other to play the Blood Rush. I'm okay with him giving me a bunch of cards on turn 0. It doesn't really affect me. He gives me an Amplify, and like that's fine. A point of note: always arsenal your Wild Ride. Unless you think that like your Blood Rush is going to be safer in your arsenal, but oftentimes it's a question of like, okay, both of them are going to be safe. Do I arsenal the Blood Rush or do I arsenal Wild Ride? Arsenal the Wild Ride. Especially if you're on 1 claw, putting that Wild Ride in Arsenal allows you to go like Blood Rush and then Claw, Wild Ride, another attack, or like Wild Ride, Claw, another attack, as opposed to like if you have the Blood Rush in Arsenal, now your Wild Ride might get discarded and you're looking at like, oh no, I don't have a second attack or a third attack, so your turn is just like Claw, attack, and you just kind of cry about it. So Wild Ride and Arsenal, plus we have no cards in graveyard, so that's like 4 graveyard fill as opposed to like 2, which is pretty big. So he sends he plays a Runic Reckoning, and then he makes Rune Chant, Runic Reckoning into a Snuff Out, which is kind of frustrating. I have the opportunity to just say no blocks, take the 8 and discard like the Swing Big to the Snuff Out when he inevitably gets rid of his Rune Chant, but I instead opt to give the Husk and the Bone Breaker just because with the Wild Ride I can actually make use of a 5-card Blood Rush hand, whereas with like without the Wild Ride and Arsenal I can't make full use of that 5-card Blood Rush, or it's more difficult to make use of a 5-card Blood Rush. So I feel like giving the armor here is correct. I never really felt a need to use the Husk anywhere else in this matchup. It could be wrong on turn 0, but I was pretty okay with it. So we go into Blood Rush turn, and I am greeted with 2 Pulping a Wild Ride, and then obviously the Wild Ride in Arsenal. I choose to send the Wild Ride in Arsenal rather than the Pulping. Obviously, if the Wild Ride misses, we DM 2 magic, and he gets to laugh at me. But the odds are pretty good that it hits, and not only does it hit, but it hits a Beast Within off the top, which is super, super quality. And on top of that, the Beast Within finds that red Graveling Growl, whether that's the main board Graveling Growl or the sideboard Graveling Growl, we will never know. But this feels really good, and this hand also plays around Face Purgatory really nicely, because I'm very happy to just discard one of these two draw, discard, go again cards. Just get another 6 in my graveyard, and then I can just blue to send Claw into Graveling for a pretty nice 21 Blood Rush turn. And I get to Arsenal the Wild Ride, which is like, I can think of a lot of like double Claw Blood Rushes that don't get to 21, that like get to 16 and you go, damn, that was like, okay, I'm glad I at least got to 16. So he gives me his whole hand, including the face. I discard the Pulping again. I don't know what this Arsenal card is right now. I assume that Viscerize around D-Reacts, so I'll gladly discard a Pulping and keep a Wild Ride for next turn with the ability to like just have the almost unconditional go again from the Wild Ride. I end up forcing through some damage. He just, like I said, he just gives me his whole hand, so I draw back up. I actually keep the Wild Ride here. I have a choice of going Dread into Graveling or like barraging Wild Ride into like maybe Dread. But I really just like the clean barraging into Dread into Graveling. Saving the Wild Ride for like when we don't draw the go again here. And again, I'm just like, I have huge tempo. He keeps giving me a bunch of his cards, and the Dread here just does the Lord's work. Banishes both of the misses I had in grave, so now I have a super clean graveyard for any Shadow Realms I draw. And certainly the second Graveling coming in super nicely to set up that like 3-card 13, not counting the barraging, because he gives me 2 cards. And this red Graveling just gets that clean 4 damage through, which felt really nice. His turn, he he establishes a Malefic and then attacks me with Claw. With Reaping Blade. Now, with this Wild Ride in Arsenal, there's a decision point here. I can use the Agile to make an Agility, guaranteeing that no matter what Blood Rush draws, no matter what effectively the top 3 cards of my deck are, this Wild Ride has a go again, and I can almost guarantee a 3 attack wide turn. Alternatively, I can just use the Agile as possible resource or discard fodder. I end up going for again, I can utilize a 5-card hand, so I'm going to utilize a 5-card Blood Rush hand, or theoretically, right, I can utilize a 5-card Blood Rush hand, which in this matchup you normally can't do, and I'm also like, I'm already ahead 10 life. I'll take another 3 damage. That's fine, bring me down to 34. This Blood Rush turn is really unfortunate. I go Claw. So I send Blood Rush. I send Claw to clear out my floating resources. That way I can send the Wild Ride into whatever we get off the top. I mean, maybe there's a world where like I use one of the floating resources to play the Unworldly Bellow, and then I pitch the Graveling Growl to like, I don't even know. Maybe like Wild Ride, hope I turn, I don't know. Maybe I go like Unworldly into Endless Maw or something, or like Unworldly into Wild Ride. No, the resources don't work out. I think I did the correct thing, which was Claw into into Wild Ride. But unfortunately, the Wild Ride left me with, instead of draw discarding the Graveling, which would have been incredible because then I would have had the blue and the Endless Maw to follow up, it left me with these 2 right here. I'm curious to know what all of your thoughts are on whether I Arsenal Graveling or whether I Arsenal Reckless here. I mean, my turn's over no matter what. Nothing I can do. I have no more playable attacks. But I am curious to know everybody's thoughts on the Graveling versus Arsenaling the Graveling versus Arsenaling the Reckless. I choose to go for arsenaling the Graveling, which ended up biting me in the butt because this is the hand I draw up. I have a Graveling here. And listen, seeing the third Wild Ride is really nice. And he just takes another setup turn. So I send the Wild Ride, pitching the Reckless, obviously. And again, just like maybe the worst of things. I finally hit the Graveling, but now I have this D-React in my hand and I can't get my Arsenal card out of my arsenal. What I end up doing is pitching the Deadwood to feign that I have like another attack in Arsenal to see if that would cause my opponent to block on the claw a certain way, like, you know, presenting like, oh hey, I have a swing big, be ready for the swing big. But maybe there's a world where I pitch the Guardian just to get it out of my hand for the claw and just say like, he's got 3 rune chance, I have a blue in hand, like that's where we want to be. I think that's another decision point that's worth talking about. I valued this because he's on the Runic Reckonings. I've seen the Amplifies. So I keep this around, right? Because like theoretically, we know that a blue can turn into 81 plus Guardian. I mean, turning 2 cards into block 7 is incredible in any matchup. But maybe it was correct to pitch the Guardian and just keep the blue in hand, knowing that he has 3 rune chance, and he already declared no blocks on the the Wild Ride, so he's looking to get aggressive. I think that's another thing worth talking about. This hand, I was really upset about. If Send Packing is a blue, this hand plays itself. AB1, Guardian, whatever they play, and then just like blue to go Shadow Realm into the Graveling that I have in Arsenal. Ultimately, it's a Mordred Tide turn, and I still don't mitigate a lot of damage because like I have such a life lead, and I'm able to take the damage. I actually don't get any value out of my Apex this game besides like block 2 into block 1, which feels really wrong. But I think it was correct. I think those decisions were all correct. Because he ends up going become the Arcanite for swarming, and then he goes swarming into Revel into Reaping Blade, because arcane damage is so, because rune chants allow you such control over your life total. It was really nice to be able to block things in exactly the way I wanted and go to 14 at the end of this turn. Where is it? Is this the... Oh, this is the incorrect run through, right. I did not realize that all 3 modes were on swarming, so we do a quick redo. Swarming with all 3 modes. I just give all of my armor here, just because I know that he's going to have something to follow up, and I'm going to use my armor this turn anyway. Like, it does not matter. So this is best case scenario for me almost, just because he gets up to 11 rune chance, which is perfect for getting me to 14 life, right? Which is like exactly where we want to be. I could have saved a point of life by pitching the Guardian here, and gone to 15, but I felt very comfortable given that his turn was over. Like, I'm very happy to arsenal the Shadow Realm, the Guardian, if my turn ends up just being like Shadow Realm Horror into Graveling. Very happy to arsenal the Guardian. It allows me to have a super defensive turn to set up the flip, and just like, maybe I don't deal any more damage, but I still have like a 13 damage turn into him, so I neuter his ability to deal damage, just because he at least, I mean, at the very least he gives me armor, but he's probably not just giving me Armory, he's probably giving me a card or two. And Vis on like a 3-card hand or a 2-card hand is a lot less scary than Vis on a 4-card hand. So I give the Send Pack in here just because it's... I would give the Guardian if I could, but I can't. I get pretty fortunate here on my Shadow Realm Horror. I hit Swing Big. So my turn is just Shadow Realm into Swing Big. I think if I hit something other than Swing Big, I just send the Graveling from Arsenal and then Arsenal the Guardian. But I was pretty fortunate. 1, his hand was defensive. 2, I hit the Swing Big, so I was able to just throw a whole bunch of damage at him. And take pretty much all of his equipment because his creeper, or 3 block on his equipment just because his creepers are going to go away this turn because he's not going to deal arcane damage. So moving on to the next turn, I draw an all Blood Debt hand. So again, Graveling Growl in Arsenal. This hand really doesn't do a lot. I don't know if there's merit to over pitching. So pitching the Mark to play the Hungering, pop Hooves, pitch the Wrecker to play the Graveling, and have I not IP myself, right? IP 0 because I'll get rid of this. I'll play this, pitch this to play this, pitch this to play this. So I'll just have the Boneyard left to go into Arsenal. I don't know if that's correct. What I ended up doing is keeping the Mark of the Beast around in my hand. Also, drawing this hand means that I give up on flipping. And I'm okay with that, given the context of the game, because he's down to exactly 2 block on his armor, and most of my hands threaten 12 plus damage. Like, obviously, we've seen the hands that only threaten 6, but even then, like, if our hand only threatens 6, we can be super defensive about it. And just prevent a lot of damage. And maybe we throw 6, maybe we just pass, and like I've got 3 cards of Blood Debt. Admittedly, no go again, but if I can flip from this position, I mean, it's incredible. So I send the Hungering Pop Hooves into the Graveling. It felt bad, did not feel like a good use of Hooves, but is what it is. I certainly can't leave him with a 5-card hand with a Quickening. That's not a good idea. And he ends up taking damage down to 5, which is really nice. This hand, because I've largely given up on on flipping, I'm very happy to just get aggressive with this hand. I could block everything, right? This hand blocks 9, AB3, which is really good. A lot of a 2-card Vis hand or a 3-card Vis hand doesn't necessarily get over that, even though he has the Quicken, and especially he's got the Dyadic Carapace and not the not Tunic. If he wants to attack with Sword, he has to pitch a card. So even Mordred into Rune Rager into like Sword doesn't really get past my defenses. I give the 3 here. I AB 1, and he's got 3, 4, 5. So I block 3, AB 5. I guess no, it does get through my defenses here. Yeah, never mind. But I end up just declaring no blocks on this turn. I think, or I give 1 block in the Mark of the Beast, just so I don't die. And he actually ends up just playing a Read the Runes, which is super good for me. It punishes me a little bit because I expected he would throw more damage. So I could have flipped this game if I blocked with the Mark. If I AB'd here, blocked with the Mark, I could have like pitched the Hungering to Claw and passed turn and flipped. But then he also has 12 rune chance, and I'm at 13 life, and he has a full grip. So I still think that just not playing to flip, just accepting that I'm not going to flip this game. He's at 5. I just, again, I have more go again. I can just put pressure on him, put pressure on him, put pressure on, and keep him off those big vis hands. I think that's huge, right? Especially because I'm staring down as many rune chances. I have life points. I think that it is very important to stay aggressive here, and I do go for the Dread into Boneyard from Arsenal. At this point, because I've given up on flipping, and because I had considered giving up on flipping previously, that's why I sent the Hungering into Graveling last turn. So, right, if we go back to last turn's hand, right, I could have gone, where is it? I could have gone Mark of the Beast into Graveling, kept the Hungering, but I opted to go for Hungering into Graveling because Hungering can theoretically get like 2 or 3 cards with Blood Dead into my banish, where Mark of the Beast only gets 1. So that's why I played the Hungering as opposed to the Mark of the Beast, because I was playing towards possibly going Redeemed if the game went long enough. Here he gives me the rest of his equipment plus 1 more card from hand. He takes a point of damage. Listen, 1 card sending 15 damage when your opponent's at 12 is really good. He does strip 2 cards out of my hand and I go to 3. But unfortunately for him, my 2-card hand is Endless Maw, so he has to give me at least 2 cards. And he feels priced into giving me 3 cards just to keep his life total a little bit higher. And again, just like sending, either arsenaling a card or sending sword. He sends sword. Obviously, I have to block. Well, he keeps a blue. He goes grasp into sword. Obviously, I have to block. I can't not block, otherwise I die. But drawing the 3 block here allowed me to just pitch to Graveling, or pitch the Diabolic to the AB, block with the Boneyard, right? Super clean. And again, I have this 2-card 9, which he draws a hand that blocks for a total of 9, which is really nice. And in fact, it's a pretty full Runeblade hand. So he gives me full tempo, and then I draw up on a completely clean graveyard. I draw up Shadow Realm Horror plus 2 blues and a pulping, with again that Boneyard in Arsenal, or with that Hungering in Arsenal rather. The Shadow Realm grabs Wild Ride, pulping, and Boneyard, and at this point the game's over. I go Shadow Realm. He gives me 2 cards. I send pulping. He gives me 1 card, goes to 1. And I actually keep the pulping in my hand after the pulping. And I could send either Shadow Realm or pulping. It does not matter. He's got exactly 1 card back to block. Either of these are lethal. Doesn't matter if pulping misses. The only thing that punishes me is if pulping draw discards a beast within off the top and I mill 2. I banish 2. So yeah, Shadow Realm, pulping, or Hungering does not matter. He's dead here no matter what. So that was the first game. The second game, where he was getting coached a little bit, was this one. And this time he went first, which obviously makes a huge difference. It allows him to set up, but I was also able to very skillfully draw the sand packing in my opener. So he makes some rune chants. I send packing. I threaten his Revel in Runeblood. He gives me grasp plus a D-react. Fine, whatever. Arsenal Shadow Realm, feeling pretty good. And then I draw a mostly red hand. Felt pretty bad on his Mordred Tide turn. Not gonna lie. Even though his Mordred Tide turn was super small. Or I guess not super small, but like relatively small, right? It was like Mordred into a non-attack into Rune Rager, past turn. Like, that's a small, like in quotes, small turn. But because I drew so many reds, I just leaked so much damage. And it was really unfortunate. And then, just pass turn. And then I drop a hand that's like mildly cursed. Obviously, I have the Blood Rush, I have the Claw, and I have the Shadow Realm in Arsenal. So I can have a pretty good turn. Like, obviously, Face Purgatory is going to come into play on this turn. It's going to suck. But there's, like, nothing... Maybe there's a world where, like, depending on what damage he throws, I just declare no blocks at all, go barraging, pitch Blood Rush to Blood Rush, and hope that, like, he had exactly one attack action or one non-attack action in hand, and I sniped it. That's not the path I took. He sent a bunch of damage. I look at this hand and I say I have to do something here, because if I never do something here, I don't do something ever, because there go 2 of my Blood Rushes, and this game does not go long enough to get the cycle, get the pitch deck. Fortunately, he activates Grasp of the Arknight and makes a rune chant with like 2 cards from hand, and then sends a Swarming for 3 and 3 into Sword for 3. So I AB2 just so I don't get the extra, right? Because I have the Shadow Realm in Arsenal. I AB2 instead of block for 3. I do lose a point of defensive value on the Blood Rush, but I'm keeping my graveyard as clean as possible because I know I have this Shadow Realm in Arsenal. If I have Dread Screamer in Arsenal, I don't AB, I block for 3, and I just play the Blood Rush. But because I have the Shadow Realm in Arsenal, I want to keep my graveyard as clean as possible. And my Blood Rush draws me 2 reds with 2 floating. Now from here, I could send the Shadow Realm. It is possible to send the Shadow Realm, hope that I just don't hit the Blood Rush, and then even if I get Face Purgatoried, I can still... I discard one of the reds, and then I pitch the other red for the Graveling that I have in graveyard. I opt to go for the Moonshot, which is Wild Ride fixes my hand, which it did, and that was great. Except I then got hit with the Face Purgatory, which is fine. Like, if there was ever a place to Face Purgatory, this is the place to Face Purgatory. It sucks. Obviously, like, I've taken a lot of damage, and I've dealt exactly 1. But he also doesn't have a lot. So here, his turn, again, is not a lot. Oh, no, sorry. This turn was very good. I really liked this turn. It was Swarming, Creepers in, Read the Runes, giving it all 3 modes, into Revel, into Soar. Oh, Amplify, yeah, for a whole host. I took the Arcane just because I wanted to get aggressive. I felt like I needed to get aggressive. 39 to 15 is not a place where you want to be, not against Vis. So I needed to get aggressive on this turn. I sent the Pulping first. That was probably the biggest fail rate on the turn, was Pulping failing. Plus it just gets another 6 in grave to enhance the odds of Shadow Realm Horror hitting 3 6s, because if I remember correctly, I only had the 1 Blood Rush in graveyard. I believe I do check my graveyard at some point, but if I remember correctly, I only have the 1 Blood Rush in graveyard. So if I have 8 cards and only one of them is non-6, I have a really good chance of hitting 3 6s, and I nail 3 6s. So this brings us to a decision point, and I think that I made the wrong decision here. I think that the correct decision at this decision point to which we're coming is I have a few options. I have 2 options, actually. Option 1 is, I guess option 1 is pitch Graveling to Wild Ride and like hope I moonshot a beast within. I'm not doing that. It's not happening here. So I've got 2 options. Both of these options deal 9 damage. One of them is more correct than the other. Option 1 is pitching the Graveling to Mandible Claw and then sending the Diabolic Offering. That's 3 into 6, which is obviously 9. That brings my graveyard to 8. Option 2, which is the option that I took in the game, which I think is incorrect, is pitching the Graveling to send Endless Maw, which brings me down to 2 cards in graveyard. Now, Endless Maw does have a chance of clearing the Blood Rush, which is currently my only non-attack. I think I would rather keep a higher graveyard count, right? So at the end of this turn, if I Endless Maw, I go down to 2, up to 3, 4, 5 in graveyard. So I effectively stay graveyard neutral, but if I go Claw into Diabolic, I'm at 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think that having the higher graveyard count is more important to be able to really turn on the gas when I absolutely need to turn on the gas and have like a double banish turn. So, fortunately, the Endless Maw does clear my Blood Rush, which is certainly helpful if I draw into another Shadow Realm Horror. But looking back on it, I'm a little upset at how thin I made my graveyard. Hated this hand, and fortunately, my opponent's hand did not deal a lot of damage, so I was able to actually block everything out. And this game, I did opt to transform. Now, for those of you keeping track at home, pitch the Terror Limb just because it doesn't block. Here, I give the Mark and the Hooves block 4. I know that I'm not going to use the Apex value, so I don't block here. I make another misplay here, which was pointed out to me by someone else. They go Reaping Blade for 2 and 3. I have 2 floating. That's not a problem. And I give the call and the block on Apex. Let me know when you see why this is wrong. So here, I'm pretty happy about this. Life totals are pretty even. I get to just Arsenal the Shadow Realm, and I get to flip. Now, there's no Go Again in my pile, unfortunately. And there's only 4 attacks in my pile, but it's better than not flipping. Just because I don't have tempo this game, right? Last game, I had full tempo. I was able to do everything I wanted and then some. This game, I do not have tempo. I am not comfortable playing the no-flip game. So I take my chance to flip. Skipping ahead a bit. So he goes, he went, Arcane Cussing into Deadwood, into, I forget what. Oh, it was just a full setup turn. Right, okay, never mind. So he just yeets full tempo back to me. Now, what I can do this turn is I can go Shadow Realm into Dread into a 2-cost. And that's exactly what I do. I can also send the Graveling Growl from hand. Is an option. However, I do want to maintain Arsenal velocity. Just because this game still has plenty of turns left in it, and I want to be able to keep 2 cards in hand once I'm done playing all of my cards from Banish, and be able to just keep sending damage and sending damage and sending damage. So here I do Shadow Realm into Dread, and then we get to this point, and I look at my hand. I look at my Banish and I say, okay, I have exactly 2 resources. I want to send Mark of the Beast this turn because there's going to be a lot of turns where I don't have 2 resources left. And I want to make sure that on a turn where I have 2 resources, I can send the Mark of the Beast, and then I'll have access to, like, I'm going to draw more Dreads, and I'm going to draw more Shadow Realm Horrors, and I'll be able to send these. However, I have no cards in my graveyard. That Dread Screamer took the last 3 cards from my graveyard. No matter which, if I play Mark of the Beast, I stay at 2 cards. I go to 2 cards in graveyard. If I play Graveling Growl or Diabolic, I mean, at this point, this is irrelevant. The choice between Graveling and Diabolic is relevant. I go to 3 cards in graveyard. So I initially play Mark of the Beast. I realize it's wrong. Switch it for Diabolic. I like Diabolic more than I like Graveling. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Diabolic's a cooler card. So I like playing Diabolic more often. That's why I make that decision. He gives me some more cards. And he sends a Runic Reckoninged Rune Rager at me. So this is 9 rune chance and 6 physical, which is a lot, especially considering that I have drawn yet another 3 red, 1 yellow. So with all the tempo I had, I yeet the tempo back at him on top of taking a bunch of damage, which of course is not where we want to be. Things are looking pretty grim, I think, here that I have lost. And then he makes the critical mistake of leaving me with a blue in hand on this turn cycle. He plays a Malefic into blue Rune Rager into Deadwood. Obviously, I declare no blocks on the blue Rune Rager because I'm at 3. I can take the 1. And if he decides to try to succumb me, I have the Reckless Swing to cover it. I don't want to commit the Reckless Swing, but I have the Reckless Swing to cover it. And then he just sends a bunch of damage, ends up having the 9th Blade in hand as his last card, and I have the ability to AB a bunch, and block with the Mark. And like I said, he made the critical error of allowing me to keep a blue in hand, which then allows me to commit Boots to go Mark of the Beast, Break Chain, Crack Boots into Red Graveling. He's at 7 with 1 block in hand, 1 block on Grasp, 1 on Tunic, which of course he's not going to give right away. So threatening 13 means he has to give me at least 2 cards from hand, which is really nice, which actually plants me firmly in the driver's seat again, which is where we want to be. Now, unfortunately, he did have the Haunting Rendition, which netted him an additional Rune Chant, which is not where I want him to be. And then followed that up with a Reduced to Rune Chant, which was wild value on his side. So while I did leak damage, it left him with 2 Rune Chants, which turned his hand into a 1 for 5. So I AB 2 because I have to, otherwise I die. I mean, I could go to 1. But I AB 2, I block 3 on the Dread because that's the only card that can block, and then I send the Wild Ride. Now I have 2 options, right? I can send the Deadwood, Arsenal the Wild Ride, or I can send the Wild Ride. I think in not a practice game, I would send the Deadwood, and just Arsenal the Wild Ride and say I hope I can find space to play it. But in this game, I sent Wild Ride, and in voice chat, I said, all right, Wild Ride's going to hit a Beast Within, and it's going to mill exactly 1 card, and I'm going to win the game because of it. Wild Ride hit the Beast Within, and here you go. Let's see how many cards Wild Ride mills. Hit 1 card. 1 card. Beautiful. Exactly what we want. This is never happening again in my life, but I'm very happy about this. Now, they do have to commit 2 cards here. They are incentivized to keep their Tunic. I guess they only have to commit 1 card here. But if they commit 1 card, they run the risk of dying to Reckless Swing. So they do give me a 2nd card, which is very nice. And their 2nd card is a Mordred Tide. Mordred Tide obviously gets a lot less value. But because the Beast Within banished to 6. I was allowed to play the Graveling, so they have to give me all of their cards. It was all according to Keikaku. Translator's note, Keikaku does mean plan. And their turn just gets absolutely shut down because of that hero Beast Within. Here, they Tunic, they Reaping Blade. I go, yeah, sure, take my Beast Within so it can't kill me. And then my follow-up is Dread into Boneyard, which doesn't kill them, for what it's worth. They certainly stay alive here. But at this point, we're just circling the drain. They give me a whole bunch of block again because they expect another attack, so they do need to keep their life total high. And then I Boneyard them. They're at 3. They now need to give me every card in their hand. Otherwise, they die. The Reduce is pretty nice for them. But obviously they don't have Tunic, they don't have Tunic counters, they don't have a card in hand. And then I draw my second Blood Rush of the game, and the game just ends, right? You click the Barraging, you click the Blood Rush, and you pitch Call to Grave. And no matter what I draw, they have 3 cards in hand to defend. I guess if I draw 2 reds, it sucks. Right, if I obviously this is gone. So if I draw 2 reds, I can't do Claw Endless Maw. I have to choose Claw or Endless Maw, and then I send Endless Maw for 11, and maybe they die if they have all 6s, if they have all 2s in hand, all 2 blocks. But I draw the 2 yellows. And so we just go Claw for 7. They have to give me 2 cards, which drops it to 5, into Endless Maw. Theoretically, there were 4 cards in hand. Not 4 cards. 4 cards in hand. There were 4 cards in my graveyard, which were non-6. Right? 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, there were only 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. So we have a 3 out of 13 chance. Super, super low chance of missing. Obviously, I don't miss because I'm just that good. And then they die to Endless Maw. So there you go. I feel like I got lucky against this Fist both games. Certainly in game 2, they had a lot of setup turns. They did not have power turn into power turn into power turn. So I think you definitely need to get a little lucky to consistently beat Vis, but it is definitely possible to beat Vis, even if you get a little unlucky.